One, two, three, four. It is the Y2K collector. I decided to go live tonight just because I've gotten a lot of questions about the recent video game collection pickup. And I just kind of wanted to do a quick live Q&A for anyone who's still awake. If you're on the East Coast, it's midnight your time. If you are on the West Coast, it should be 9 o'clock. So I guess if you're someone who's on the West Coast, you'll probably be tapping in um, to see what's going on. What's going on, Sunset? Um, yeah, so if you're on the West Coast, you'll probably tap in. If you're on the East Coast, you are probably already in bed. But like I said, I wanted to do a quick, just a live Q&A. A few people have had some questions about the overall pickup. So in this live, I'm just going to kind of go through what happened, give a little bit more detail, show some of the games that were in the lot that I picked up, and then just answer a few questions. So just going into the story. So I was in GameStop looking for some Switch games, and I guess this couple had walked into GameStop, and I didn't even notice them at first because like I said, I was locked in looking for Switch games, and I guess a bunch of people in the store started gathering around them, and I still didn't even know what was going on. So it wasn't until I went and I asked one of the store clerks if they had a manual for one of the games that I was looking for, and it was then that I noticed that the dude was just standing there with like an old box full of N64 games. So I didn't really say anything at first. I was just trying to kind of gauge like what was going on. And long story short, the once the store employee started ringing up the items, they were gonna literally get like $1.25 for like some of these complete in box N64 games. So the store clerk was just like, you know what? He's probably gonna offer you more. He seems interested. Just go outside. And so we went outside. We met in the parking lot. Now, while I was in the store, I actually threw them an offer while I was in the store because I wasn't sure about all of the games that were in the lot. So while I was in the store, just looking at the box that I saw, I randomly threw out, I was like, hey, would you guys take, 400? I gave them an offer of 400. Again, I'm not really knowing like everything that's in I don't know everything that's in the box. I don't know, everything. I'm just seeing it for what it is. And I just randomly say, hey, would you guys take 400 for the box? Because at this point, the only games that I could really see were like Yoshi Story, I think like Glover, and like some Star Wars games. So in my mind, I was like, okay, it's cool that they're complete in box, but they're not like anything crazy. So when I threw them the offer of the 400 and we got outside, I actually got to like look in the box. And that was when I really saw what was in the box. And I was like, oh shoot, like there's a lot more in here. But I had already told them 400 and they had already accepted. So I was like, all right, cool. Well, let's roll with the 400. But then they were like, well, we've got more. We've got a lot more in the car. So I was like, "Well, because when they kept saying that they had more, I thought they meant like they had more like at a house somewhere. I thought they wanted me to follow them to their house, but no, they had like a little hatchback car. So they were like, "No, we have everything in the car." So I was like, "All right, well, can I go take a look at what's in the car?" And they were like, "Yeah, sure." So we get to the car. They've got like two boxes of PlayStation 3, two boxes of PlayStation 1 games, and then like a box that's just filled with consoles. So I'm like, "Oh, shoot." I see all the PlayStation 1 games and, like, a good chunk of them are sealed. So, but when I started looking at the PlayStation 1 games, again, I'm seeing a lot of really low dollar, like, you know, just really low dollar titles. Like, I'm seeing Jeopardy, Wheel of Fortune. I didn't really get to look too deep into the box. So I told him, I was like, "Listen, for the games and the extra consoles, I'll do an additional 150." So basically, I wound up getting everything for 550. So when I got home and I started breaking everything down was when I started to realize like, oh shoot, there's a lot of stuff in here that was worth way more. Um, and I gave them my information for them to call me, but it wasn't until I got home that I realized like how much was in the box. So I'm gonna show you guys some of what I got in the bunch. The first thing is this N64 expansion pack. So they actually, this is the first time I've ever seen this in person, the actual box for the expansion pack. So they actually had that. The expansion pack isn't in here. It's actually in the N64, but the manual and everything is in here. So I thought that that was really cool just to see because I hadn't seen that before. So I'll just start off showing that. But I want to show some of the PlayStation 1 games because some of you had questions about some of the PlayStation 1 games. There were roughly like, I want to say about 45 PlayStation 1 games. I'm only keeping about 30 of the PlayStation 1 games, and I'm just going to show you some of them. So these are some of the sealed PlayStation 1 games. So the first one that was sealed was Space Jam. These are all factory sealed, really solid condition. Sorry for the glaring light, but Space Jam sealed was one. You have Croc 2 that's also sealed. What's sick is like that KB Toys. I thought that that was really sick. So you got Croc 2 again sealed as well. And then this is probably the most valuable one, Metal Gear Solid. Now, I actually put this into Game Eye, and when I was looking at Game Eye was saying that a sealed copy of Metal Gear Solid was 415 bucks. And I was like, ah, that sounds like a lot. Like I didn't really think that it was worth that much. But I started looking online to see if I could find any comps, and there really wasn't anything online that I could find. Like I wasn't seeing any factory sealed copies of Metal Gear Solid, which I know is a question that I got from a lot of people. They were like, "Well, how do you know that they weren't resealed?" I mean, this is a Y fold. So usually Y folds aren't reseals. Like a Y fold is a factory seal. Same thing with this here. Like whenever you see that PlayStation official seal, that is an official PlayStation seal that they used back in the day. So I'm pretty confident that this is a factory seal. So those were the sealed PlayStation 1 games that were in that. And honestly, without even looking at anything else, these 3 PlayStation 1 games pretty much paid for the whole lot. If the value of Metal Gear Solid is in fact 415 bucks. Then they had these are some of the other like complete in box PlayStation 1 games. And mind you, everything that was complete in box was like almost brand new because I guess whoever had this, they must have bought it. They must have bought. I feel like whoever owned this, they bought their kids both a PlayStation 1 and an N64. They played it maybe for like one Christmas holiday and then put it all away because everything was in like near mint condition. So this is Bugs Bunny Lost in Time. I actually had this in my original PlayStation collection, like the first PlayStation collection that I had, because I've gone through iterations in my collection and I'm always like downsizing. So I actually had Bugs Bunny Lost in Time. There's like two other Warner Brothers games on the PlayStation 1. I think Sheep Raider and like one with like Sheep Raider is the one with Wile E. Coyote, and there's another one, and I had all three. So this was actually really cool to get back. This game is surprisingly valuable. You wouldn't think it is, but those Warner Brothers games range anywhere between like 50 and like, I would say 50 and 60 bucks. So this was one that I added back. Also Saga Frontier. This was another one that I also added back. I constantly find copies of Saga Frontier 2. It's super hard for me to find a complete in-box copy of Saga Frontier. So this is one that I also kept as well. Like I said, I kept roughly around 30 of the 50 PlayStation 1 games that came in the lot. The other 20 I'm going to be trading away. I'm going to be using as trade bait to get some games over the next week. But these were the sum of the PlayStation 1 games that I got. Maybe I'll do a video and I'll kind of go over like all the PlayStation 1 games that I got in that lot. But these were the PlayStation 1 games that I got there. So before I kind of go into some of the N64 stuff, again, for anyone who's just joining the live, I'm just kind of doing this live. For anyone who had any questions, a lot of people had questions. They wanted to know how much I paid. They wanted to know what the value of the lot was. So that's kind of why I'm just doing this here to kind of answer some of those questions now. Now let's get into some of the N64 stuff. So One of the games that came was this copy of Buck Bumble. Now, I'd seen a loose cart copy of Buck Bumble in the past, and it was kind of pricey. So I wasn't really sure how much this one was gonna be, but complete in box Buck Bumble is about $100 or so, maybe a couple $100. And it's not one that I've really seen a lot on the N64, but this was one of the games that wasn't sealed, but it pretty much had like the shrink wrap still on it. So whoever had these games was really meticulous about how they took care of them. They really like all the games themselves are like back in their plastic. They put them back in the box. Like these were very well kept N64 games. So Buck Bumble was one of so there were 17 complete in box and sealed N64 games. So Buck Bumble was one of them. Actually, there's 18. Then you had Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. So Ocarina of Time, again, complete in box. It's not completely sealed. That would have been crazy if this one would have been sealed. But this was not sealed, but it was complete in box. Does have everything on the inside. And again, just a really, really clean really, really just clean kind of pickup here that was a part of the N64 lot. So this was kind of crazy right there as well. This was one that was included. And then I'll show you guys some of the sealed N64 stuff. This is not all of the sealed N64 games, but I'll kind of go through the more notable ones. Um, the first one, and this is probably the best condition game of them all, is this copy of Yoshi's Story. So this is a sealed copy of Yoshi's Story. Again, I know some people were asking, were these resealed? I'm gonna say no. This is again a factory sealed copy of Yoshi's Story. It does not have the hang tag, but this is as minty as it gets. I would I would be tempted to kinda get some of these graded, but I don't do the graded thing, but if I was like a guy to do the whole grading thing, this is one that I would grade because the box is this is probably the best conditioned box out of all the games in the lot. So this was really dope to see a complete copy of or a sealed copy of Yoshi's Story. This one I thought was really cool to see. Then next up, you have Double O Seven. So this copy of 007 was pretty interesting to me, to be honest with you. Because again, I had concerns about, the whole resale thing, but this label here, this sticker is actually a genuine sticker. So this is the Game of the Year version of the game. That sticker is a genuine N64 sticker or sticker that would have came on it. And again, this is not a like a reseal, like a shrink wrap. This is an actual factory seal. So the box, what's going on, Just Dave? What's going on, Reese? The box with this, the only issue with this one is that there was damage to the box. So this box is a little bit dented. It's not as minty as like the Yoshi story. And sorry, my kids, for those of you who know, kids will tear everything up. So we're actually in the process of cleaning up. It's been a crazy weekend right now, but I just wanted to pause real quick to do this live. But yeah, so this is a sealed copy of 007. Oh, look, back here is my daughter's Mario hat. Hold on. Look at my daughter's Mario hat. She loves to rock this hat. I got this hat from my daughter. She rocks it all the time. Anyway, so yeah, so 007 GoldenEye sealed here. This was one of the sealed games as well. I think there's like a little stain right there because these did sit in like a little storage bin. So this is another one that was sealed. And then you have probably the most expensive game of them all, which I was blown away by how much this game goes for, um, is Banjo Kazooie. Now, this game, if there was any doubt about any of these games being sealed, like I mean, about being resealed, I have zero doubt about Banjo Kazooie. Um, for a couple reasons. So one, this copy of Banjo Kazooie had this. For those of you who used to shop at the mall, I know no one shops at the mall anymore because everyone buys everything on Amazon. But these were the anti-theft devices that used to be used at malls. So they would put these stickers on games so that when you walk through the little metal detector thing, it would go off if they didn't take this sticker off. So most stores were supposed to either take this sticker off or deactivate the signal before you left. So this is definitely factory sealed. This came from Walmart or somewhere, Target. I'm gonna say either Walmart or Target. I know the sealed copy of, I think it was Croc 2, was from KB Toys. So that could have been where these came from. But this right here told me, okay, this is authentic. The other thing too is this hang tag. Now, this hang tag, I'm sure when they first bought it, this hang tag was like crystal clear. But I mean, if it, if you put something like this in a box and put it in a storage bin for like 20 years, this is gonna start to turn a little bit opaque, or it's gonna start to look a little bit brown. So time has definitely done its thing on this hang tag, but this is a genuine hang tag. So this is a bona fide sealed copy of Banjo Kazooie that has the hang tag and still has the anti-theft device on it and its original factory seal wrapping. I was a little shocked when I looked online or when I added this one into price charting, because when I first got all of these games, my initial thought process was, okay, 007 is going to be the most expensive game. Like I thought 007 would be the most pricey game of them all, when in fact it was actually Banjo Kazooie. Banjo Kazooie, I guess, is like an $1,100 game when it's factory sealed. So, so yeah, it was pretty cool just to kind of see these, and I was a little shocked when I started to add them in. Capri Sun says N64 is up right now too. What a find! Yeah, man, it was crazy how I walked into it. Just Dave says, kind of curious to see your take on this. Been seeing a few videos talking about old games. You think it's blind nostalgia or it's actually good games? I'm not a huge N64 guy. Like I did have an N64 growing up. I played Mario 64, which complete I do in this lot was also a complete in box Mario 64, Donkey Kong 64. Like all the major games were included in this lot. Um, I think a lot of it is nostalgia. I think if a game is good or not is gonna be relative to you. Um, I'm probably going to sell this GoldenEye because I don't really do well with first person shooters, especially GoldenEye. I used to get a lot of motion sickness playing GoldenEye even back in the day. So I'm not gonna keep GoldenEye just because I don't play first person shooters. But a game like Ocarina of Time, yeah, I'll play this for sure because this is one that I played back in the day. Rusty J. Shackleford says, "Open it and play it." I'm not sure which one you want me to open and play, but I mean, there are plenty of open games that I can play before I open this. So I'm definitely going to take my time with the sealed ones. There's no rush. Like I said, there were 18 games that were picked up in the lot, so we got time. No need to rush into anything like that. But yeah, overall, these are just some. These are just some of the ones that came in the bunch. Um, Henlo says grading Banjo. I thought about having Banjo Kazooie graded. I did, but then I was like, why? There's already graded copies of this game. I have seen some of those copies get listed for thousands of dollars. Are they selling at that? Probably not. Do I think I could realistically get $1,000 for this Banjo Kazooie? I don't know. I really don't know. Um, I don't know. Would I use it as trade bait? Possibly. I might. Because there are games that I want for other systems that are pretty much expensive as like $1,000. So this would actually serve as great trade bait to get other games that I might want for the Sega Genesis or the Sega Saturn. Those are really expensive consoles to collect for the Sega CD. So I might use these as trade bait. We'll just have to see. Solid Lato, good to see you back on the hunt. Yeah, man, thanks. Yeah, like, I've been, I moved out to the West Coast and I got settled in, and then I started really hunting like in March. And it was almost like the first week that I started hunting again, I just started finding the craziest stuff. Like, it was crazy. Like, my first week hunting, and you guys could go back on my channel and see, I found like a lot of like NES games with games including like Gun Knack, Snow Brothers. Kickmaster, um, DuckTales 2, Chippendale Rescue Rangers 2. It was just crazy. So since I moved out here, I've just been get having rare stuff just fall in my lap. Um, Literally, like, just fall in my lap. So, there are some things that I've had to go out and, like, hunt for. I did have to hunt to get a Complete in Box NES. I did have to hunt for some Sega Saturn games. I had to, like, get online and kinda source those, but this man, this lot right here was just straight up luck. This is just pure luck. So, but yeah, if any of you guys have any questions, before I kind of jet here so I can wrap up my weekend, let me know about the lot, about how much I paid, the value of everything, the total value. Um, those are some of the questions that I got. For those of you who just might have joined, like I said, I paid 550 for the entire lot. I thought that the lot kind of had a complete value of somewhere in the neighborhood of maybe 5500 or so. um if I decided to grade any of these games or anything like that, that number might bounce up a little bit more. um I have seen graded copies of GoldenEye, sealed copies of GoldenEye listed for 7500. Do I think that's worth that? No, I don't. I really don't think it's worth that. I think the reality is, like, the true reality is that the lot itself is probably worth somewhere between 5,000 and 5,500. That's the most realistic number that I could come to. And I did not know that that's what it was going to be before, making my offer. When I made my initial offer, I was prepared to take a loss. I was prepared to get a box of games that really weren't going to be worth that much. And it just turned out that it was worth a hell of a lot more. Because I'm not a huge N64 collector. I'm not like a huge, I'm just not. But here we are. So, um, but yeah, man, that does it for me. We'll see what happens. I am gonna start getting into buying more collections because I think it's the fastest and the cheapest way to rebuild my retro collection. So, I just think it's gonna be hard to find the types of games that I was able to find on the East Coast. On the East Coast, it was so much easier for me to find like Sega Genesis stuff, Sega CD stuff, stuff like that. On the West Coast, it's way easier to get Nintendo stuff. Almost all of my random finds have been Nintendo, whether they be NES, Super NES, N64. It's all been Nintendo out here. Sega is just not the thing that people look for. And I don't know if that's a regional thing. I don't know if it's like Sega was big on the East Coast or like in the Southeast, like Florida and stuff. You know, I don't know. Um, but like here, especially in Southern California, like in Orange County, um, you know, if you're like in certain parts of LA, well, no, certain parts of LA, yeah, there's more of a Sega Genesis vibe for sure. But I think just like what you're gonna run into, um, I'm just not running into it um a lot. Just Davis, I definitely think it comes down to quality of games, in my opinion. Some games are dated and haven't aged well, but some have aged good. I agree. There are just some games in this lot that I just am not gonna be able to play. Like I won't be able to deal with it. Like the fifth gen is really, really tough for me. Like the fifth generation of gaming is really rough for me. Um, a big part of me is considering just trading the entire lot for a bunch of like Super Nintendo and N64 box stuff. I'm like very tempted to do that. I don't know if I'm going to do that, but I am very, very tempted to do that just because I'm more likely to actually play Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis games and even Game Boy games than I am to like sit down and play a bunch of N64 stuff. It's just not appealing to me. It's not, or it's not as appealing to me because I did have an N64 collection before, but I'm just not as drawn to it as I am like the generation prior. So I'm pretty sure N64 and PlayStation 1 are Gen 5. I'm more of a Gen 4 kind of guy. That's like peak gaming for me personally, but to each his own. But that does it for me with this live. I hope you guys had a great weekend. This weekend was a wild roller coaster ride. I'm almost like in anticipation of what I'm gonna run into this week because I just feel like this is just gonna keep happening to me at least once or twice a month. So we'll see what happens, and I'll keep you guys in the loop. That does it for me. It's the Y2K Collector. You guys have a great rest of your evening.